No, when Dennis will start carving, he'll hit you with chips coming off his knives. And we're on. Good. All right. Welcome. I'm Craig Arnold, president of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. I'd like to welcome you all. We have a nice sized crowd here. This is the March 2022 general membership meeting. We've got, well, actually, this is my last meeting that I get to officiate the entire meeting. What's that? Well, I just open the meeting. I don't close it. Oh, May is? Oh, okay, so May. Oh, I got one more. All right. Yeah, Calvin's like, you got one more. You got one more. All righty. Like to welcome first-time visitors to the Guild. If you're a first-time visitor, please stand. Very nice. Thank you. Welcome to the Guild. Now, are you members yet? Not yet. I do see a green badge back there on that gentleman, so welcome to the Guild. So, and any new members that have been to the Guild, but this is your first meeting tonight? None? Okay. All righty. Let's see. Moving on. Happy St. Patrick's Day Eve. That's what it says here. We'll go through some of the other officers here. I know, Mike, do you have anything as secretary? No?
Other than just tell them about we're voting by now.
I'm going to save that for Tim. Tim Locke, he's our member at large. Come on up. Tim is, one of his important duties is rounding up new victims, volunteers.
Volunteers, yes. We all like the Guild, right? It's run 100% by volunteers. Okay, so yes, we need volunteers for our leadership directors and board members. So if you have an interest, contact either me or Mike. If you know somebody that ought to be nominated, please do so. We'll be sending out a ballot in the real near future electronically, so everybody gets to vote. We do need a quorum of voters. 80? Okay. 10% of the membership needs to vote, and we don't have near that many people here tonight, so we need everybody to who gets this message to vote. And we'll take the nominating committee does have a slate of officers to nominate, but we're also open up to any other additional members who'd like to run for an office. And all the leadership lead folks need help. They need an assistant. So if you have an interest in any of the leadership items, we'd sure be happy to put you with a leadership director to assist them and learn that job. Thank you.
Thank you. And like Tim said, you'll all, even our members who are watching at home, you'll be getting an email. That is how we're going to vote. We're not going to have an in-meeting voting. So all the votes will be taken care of through email. All right. Let's see. Moving on. Treasurer Gary Melke, anything to talk about money? We've got some, and we're good. All right. Debts are paid. All right. Good. Chuck Saunders is back here in the back of the room. He has lots of stuff for sale. Step right up and buy some crap. I do not see that Delta bandsaw. We're too late for that. Sorry, Norm. Let's go. All righty. Ron Hall with Communications. You have anything to say? Where'd he go? Everything's in the newsletter. All righty. So if you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, you can always find us on Facebook at KCWWG. Facebook group is Kansas City Woodworkers Guild Group. Shows there on your screen at home. We're also on Instagram as Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. Twitter at KCW Guild. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the little subscribe button and the bell, and you'll get notified of all the the events that happen here at the Guild. Kevin Thomas, you talk about Woodworks, Woodwords, the podcast. Come here, come here. Got a microphone?
Our interview of member at large Tim Locke just went up over the weekend. I hope you've had a chance to look at that. We're going to be recording a couple of different people on this coming Sunday. And then next month we'll hopefully be getting with Mike and the folks from Kansas City Hospice to talk about the veterans program. And one of the Norm is going to be helping me out with one of the guests on that we're recording this weekend. I hear the guy's a real asshole, so.
I've already done it, though. All righty, let's see. If you'd like to write a newsletter or an article for the newsletter, Ron will gratefully accept it. You don't have to be a great writer. Ron will turn you into a great writer. So if there's a topic that you've been working on in your own shop, want to share some insights, we would love to read them. That's how we all learn, is by the one person doing something. So if you have an article idea, run it past Ron. He's the stately man back there in the hat. He just stands there and smiles. So, all righty. Let's see. Librarian, Don. Got magazines for sale. They're what, $1 each? 5 for $1? A truckload for 10? All right. Chris McCulley with events. Nothing to add. Membership is Jim Berard. 812 members. And new for this fiscal year is 417 new members. Very nice. Yes. So Jim's back there. Jim's the primary contact that new members have. He will help you answer questions. And just a few are scared away. All right. Programs, Matt, for next month? Maybe. Okay. We just want to leave it at that? All right. Let's see. Mike Jones with safety. I know he's working on the hospice and palliative care honoring veterans program in the newsletter, and I think in a couple of Instagram or Facebook posts. There was an email too that had a couple of the flag cases that he's already done. Rough to ready. Mike, how many have you done this year?
So far, 35, I think.
35. All right. Yeah, Rough to Ready is a class that you can take in lieu of the orientation. You still have to do your online test, but you and an instructor will make a box and have enough wood to make a second box, but you'll put your hands on just about every piece of equipment over there. One-on-one or one-on-two? Yeah, one-on-one or one-on-two, so you get very personalized instruction during that. Let's see, sponsorship, Dwayne. We got 9 items back on the raffle table. And there's things that every woodworker needs. So if you can't find it on Dwayne's table, Chuck will certainly have it for you. Training. Norm, anything new? Here comes Norm.
There's not a lot new. We should have had be right in the middle of the the Megan Fitzpatrick class right now. Unfortunately, with her daily rate and the cost of materials, we weren't able to pull that one off. So we're still considering our fall class and who we might bring in, but we're always looking for new classes. So if you have a class interest, something you'd like to teach, something like that you'd like to do in woodworking, let us know, because we'd love to feature you and have you participate in the guild that way. It's all volunteer. Everyone, even class instructors, are volunteered. We have an ongoing basic and intermediate class. We've been augmenting that with a hand tool class, so those go year round basically. And we have a good team that teaches those, but on the weekends, on the off week nights, when we can have other classes going on, we'd love to have people come in and help teach. We have more people wanting, many more people wanting to take classes than we have classes to offer.
Thank you. Skill builders?
Yes.
What's the next one? Skill builders are on the first Saturday of the month.
Yeah, it's either going to be
Inlay or drawer dovetails. It's going to be one of those two topics on the first Saturday. I'm sorry, Chris? And the last skill builder is up on YouTube with David Roth doing pin blanks and knife scales. Playing with glue. Yes, glue. Sticky stuff. Alrighty. Let's see, that's why, I'm teaching the clock class. We got the clock tiles in today. We got the clock works in last week. And so, yep. Yes, I will. I bought 14 tiles and 14, so I can do it a second time in the fall. It makes a great Christmas gift, the clock, whether it's even to yourself. Yeah, it does. Let's see, we'll move on to the to the SIGs, the special interest groups. Dan, you want to talk about the wood carving SIG? So pyrography, traditional carving, and power carving. A what? Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Yeah, and that's pile of mud with two legs sticking out. So the wood carver SIG meets the fourth Tuesday of the month from 6 to 9, generally in classroom number 2. Is that correct? All right. CNC SIG. Anything coming up in that? Ed or okay, having a class demonstration on an adjustable piano stool that screws up and screws down, right? I'm going to compete with my clock class, making a clock. Has to look just like that one on the board back there. Oh, okay. Challenge accepted. All right. Hand tools. What's the next topic? You still working on your boxes? The shaker candle box. Completely prepped by hand, getting ready for dovetails. Sure, I would. you can cheat and use the jointer and the planer. that will catch you up. And then just finish it off with a smoothing plane. Thanks, Rob. Power tool restoration SIG. Nothing going on in that one? All right. Scroll saw, John Tegler, come on up. John heads up the scroll saw SIG, and they meet the second Wednesday of the month over in classroom number 2.
John Tegler is my name, and scroll sawing is my game. Jeez Louise. Scroll saw, we have nothing planned for the month of March, but in April, on the 9th, which is a Saturday, Classroom 2, we are going to have an introduction to scroll sawing. And we're capable of handling up to 3 people. And George Rexroad, the bald-headed, creepy-looking guy back there, he will be in there to help out. And then on that's April the 9th, that's a Saturday. And then on April the 13th, our special interest group will gather together, and that's on Wednesday. And I think 13th, that would be the second Wednesday, right? Second Wednesday in the month, and we meet in the library room. And if you're interested in scrolling, it's a great place to hear what other people are doing. Sometimes projects are brought in. It'll give you a chance to see what can be done with a scroll saw. So you're all invited to that. And in May, there's nothing planned. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, John. And the scroll saw class is filled? All the classes are filled. All right. All right. You got nothing to do. All right. But great. All righty. And a new SIG, the Laser SIG, will meet on the fourth Wednesday of the month. Their inaugural meeting will be April 27th. Mike McCulley, any just introduction to the machine, or come on up? Tell us what you want to do. Yeah.
As of now, we're training people every Wednesday. I've had a couple of impromptu Sunday classes, and Doc had one during that snowstorm. He actually had 4 people show up that day. Nobody else could get in, but he managed to have 4 people there. The Laser SIG at this point is concentrating on training. So we want to get people trained. We'll actually have over 100 people trained by the time we get there. Right now, I think we're up to 54, and with about 45 more to go. So if you're interested in laser engraving, the 27th, we'll be opening up the SIG, and we'll be talking. It's for any of you that have been trained. If you find a setting on a piece of wood that works for you, please record it. We're going to be sharing those. Right now, we have a piece of paper that came from the Rabbit Company that basically has one setting on it, and we have no idea. You know, I called them and said, "Do you have other settings?" And she goes, "Well, you just discover them." Okay, so we just go ahead and burn stuff up. Well, most people try, 2 or 3 different settings before they find something. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're experimenting as you go. We give you, when we take you through the training, we actually make a little object that you get to keep and take home. So we'll show you the basics. We'll show you several steps on the basics of how to create something. And then from that, all the design work and everything can be done in the library. We have the exact same information on the library computers that we have on the laser computer here. And the one button we don't touch is? Thank you. The menu button we don't touch. Also, there's a setting inside Lightburn that says, do you want to change machine settings? Don't touch it. Leave it alone. Walk away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All righty. Our next meeting, it will be April 20th, which is the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Is Jim Bainey here tonight? Yeah, Jim, there you are. First time I saw you tonight. Come on up. We're going to do show and tell now. So if you've got a show and tell item, get over there with it. And who wants to be first in the show and tell? Don't all jump at once. You want to turn the, orange one is on. So you can use this one, and your guest can use this one.
Okay. John Tegler was up here talking about scroll sawing, and I remember back about 18, I don't know if it's 20 years ago, we had a new member we were still meeting in the basement of the church. We had a new member show up, and he introduced himself as John Tegler, and he said he wanted to become a woodworker because he just inherited a radial arm saw.
Greatest saw in the world.
And about 4 of us immediately told him where the closest dumpster was that he could dump it in. Yeah, that's been a long time. Okay, who's first here? Come on up. Tim?
You want to put it up on?
Can we lift it up?
Sure.
Okay.
Put that where I won't step on it.
So tell us about this.
Well, I made it out of walnut.
Really?
I took a cabinet plan from back here in the library, and it was called an everyday cabinet. It was kind of plain, but I thought, well, the dimensions are all worked out. And I wanted to experiment with some green and green design details, so I converted it from a plain everyday cabinet to a green and green style everyday cabinet. So that's where you get the ebony pegs and the cloud lifts from.
So, did you build this cabinet in the shop here or at home?
I did it at home.
Okay. What's the purpose? I mean, is it getting used for something specific?
It doesn't really have a specific purpose. I kind of wanted to experiment with the design concepts and see what they look like in reality, and so that certainly gives me that opportunity. And walnut's always been a favorite wood, so why not?
Okay, I was going to ask you why you chose walnut for. Why is it your favorite wood? Just for the
grain colors and texture to it.
How did you get this looking so consistent?
By doing everything different.
Okay.
Well, we've all made mistakes when we do woodworking, right? And it's how you recover from them that counts. So I came up with the concept of Watco Danish oil for a finish to clear. The walnut was dark enough, and then waxed it. But I thought I needed something a little different on the top, so I put poly on the top. And it came out so crappy that I took the poly off. That's a lesson to learn.
Was it water-based poly?
No.
Oil-based?
Yes.
How did you apply it?
With a rag.
Okay.
And
so
it had lots of dust problems and. Yes, a worst coat of shellac first, but so I sanded the top down and Danish oiled and waxed.
Okay.
And you probably never get all the poly off of it, but.
How did you make the rail and style joints in the legs and?
Okay, now this has biscuit joints in it for floating tenons.
Okay.
But the rest of it's regular mortise and tenon construction.
And
all the panels are mortise and tenon, and then they just have a deep groove for the panel. And then, so the panels on, and then I just cut a big rabbet around the edges of the panels to get them down to a 1/4 inch.
Okay. And the back is panel as well?
Yes.
And the drawers are?
So I added some of Green and Green's work used these kind of cabinet joints. So I played around with that a little bit too, and did templates first and then made the real thing. And one of the things I learned is you can't put these in the middle of that space between that 3/8 space, or you'll blow out the ends.
And these are pegs or nails?
Pegs.
Okay.
Ebony pegs.
And
they're decorative.
Okay. So you use a mortise and tenon machine to drill that, or is that a?
Well, I bought a set of the cheapest hollow chisel mortise chisels on Amazon. Figured I'm not going to use them a lot, and a hammer. So line up and mark them first with the chisel and a straight edge, so that you keep them square and plumb, and then take their 1/4 inch pegs. So take the next size drill bit under a 1/4 inch and drill them out, and then follow that with the mortise chisel, and you get a nice clean hole. And then you take the plugs and you make them about 5/1000 oversized, and then taper them a little bit. After you cut it off, taper them a little bit.
How'd you taper them?
With a hand chisel. Just a little sliver to take them off, so they're easier to start.
Okay. And the whole finish is
So it's
Oh,
Danish Oil and Wax.
Okay. And what's the plan for this?
It's going to go to the south office in Florida.
Oh, okay.
It needs,
Is this
it
another
needs
house
some
that you
color.
have to furnish?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Any questions about this?
Take a long stick, maybe 6 inches long, and it's to your dimensions that we just discussed, and then chuck it in a drill. And there's two ways. One, you can put some sandpaper on a sponge and poke it down into the sandpaper, go through the grits, and that'll do it, but it's kind of inconsistent. And the other way to do it is make a jig and do it on the belt sander where you fix an angle, you rotate it with the drill, and then that makes it more consistent. So I tried both methods, and the belt sander method's better. And then
Edge sander or a belt sander that you tipped upside down?
I've got both.
Okay.
I start off with a belt sander bolted to a board, and I've moved up to a real edge sander. But
Yeah, that's probably my third favorite tool,
they're quite helpful.
for sure. Okay. Any other questions?
The legs,
Yes,
were they all cut out, was that cut out of like a much larger solid piece?
yes. So yeah, there was a piece of waste here, and I cut it on the table saw till I got to about where the curve started, and then did bandsaw the rest of the way. That kept it straight for most of the way.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome job. Okay, who's next?
Imagine most of you recognize a fro when you see it. Imagine most of you recognize a fro when you see it. This is one that Fred gave me. There's the,
Got to put this up.
okay,
There you go.
all right. But anyway, Fred gave me the iron that he'd gotten from a garage sale. And I spent about a week with that thing in an electrolytic bath, taking the rust off of it. It looks like it was handmade. It's hammer welded around here. So it's really old, and it showed it had a significant coating of rust.
So what all did you have to do to that to kind of bring it back to the 20th century? What'd you have to do to this to bring this back to the 20th century?
Well, basically all I did was take the rust off
Okay.
and then make a handle. And then, of course, if you got a fro, you got to have something to hit with it with.
Okay.
And that's the last of the Osage orange that I happen to have. And the handle I made out of a piece of ash that came off of a tree that was being cut down in my neighbor's yard.
And do you use this?
I've tried with limited success.
Okay.
I think I need to maybe sharpen the edge just a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say you could shave with this.
Oh, you don't want to. You want to. The file is not supposed to be a cutting tool. It's supposed to be a splitting tool.
Okay. And so what are you trying to?
I'm trying to split some more of that ash.
Okay.
And it's not splitting very well.
Is it green?
No.
It's dried
Yes.
and it's in a log form.
Yes.
And so what's your reasoning for splitting this ash?
To make it into the size and shape of things I can use for things like handles.
Okay. All right. So
This particular piece I split out with splitting wedges like you'd split firewood.
Okay.
And then did a lot of bandsaw work to get it down to the point where I could stick it in the lathe and get it roughly to shape. And then I did a lot of rasp work and so forth to get this end of it to fit inside that socket.
So how many hours have you got vested in this little project?
I have no idea.
You know, you can go to Home Depot and rent a log splitter.
It would be, if I was willing to use it for a particular purpose, like splitting logs, that would probably be a better way.
Okay. Any questions about this? Yeah.
Just in case you ask the wrong question.
Yeah.
Right now, my elbow's too sore.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so Wayne, tell us about this. Can you?
Been working, hadn't done inlay for a while. I've been playing around with Kumiko and I kind of got tired of doing it and throwing them out. So I decided, okay, I'm going to put some in little boxes. And so I've been able to work on the hexagon type, cutting by hand, and they're getting better. They're still not real good, but we're getting there. And so making these boxes just mainly to give away to people that come over and that type of thing. So that's all there is to it. This was just basically kind of an exercise in can I make this happen and have it come out looking halfway decent. Because you got to make the one triangle, then you got to split it up and, you know, make it all fit so that it looks halfway decent. So it was more or less an exercise to see if I could do it and have it turn out halfway decent. Didn't turn out too bad, so I put some finish on it. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with it. Probably, I don't know. It'll go collect dust somewhere.
Okay, so this is made out of cherry?
Yeah.
And you put a finish on it?
Yeah.
And how did you get the felt in?
You mean the leather?
Is that what it is, leather?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's suede. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I put that on a cardboard, not cardboard, but not corrugated, but just some thick stock, card stock. And cut that down to where it fit in and then just glued the leather on it and put it in. Little double stick tape and it's down there for good. So.
And this box with the inlay,
Uh-huh.
is that sycamore on
That's
the top?
quarter sawn sycamore, yeah. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So.
And so what's the purpose of these boxes? Just to give away?
That's a set. I made 3 of those for, I mean, basically they're sized to hold a gift card. We had a couple friends retire, and so I had a cherry one and a mahogany one, similar to this, that we gave away, and stuck a gift card in it.
So what is the wood on the top of?
That's also quarter sawn sycamore.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did you get it the light color as opposed to?
Well, you buy the board.
You buy a white board.
Yeah,
Never
basically
dawned on me.
that's it. Yeah, because this one I was thinking it's going to turn out like this, and it looked a little darker, but I thought it'll be okay when the finish gets on, and it just damn near hid the whole star. So, but yeah, so.
So there's a finish on top of this.
Yeah, that one's armor seal with
and
wax.
that's what darkened it.
No, the board was actually darker.
Oh, okay.
The board was actually darker, and so this is just a lighter board.
That's awesome. This
Yeah.
is take a look at this. This is really unique. Huh?
Don't look too hard, please. you'll see some bends in it that aren't supposed to, that aren't natural, let's put it that way. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions
Questions?
about these boxes?
Did you jig your Kaminko? Did you make the little?
yeah, I don't know what you,
How did you make your pieces?
I cut them by hand with a saw, hand saw.
Using the angle jig.
I used the angle jig. I used and I also made some. If you look up Des King, he does it a little differently. And I made some jigs like he uses, which use more of a block plane. Makes it very easy for the final fitting of the pieces. You know, if you need to take off a couple thou to make it go in, you can do that just real easy. You don't have to mess around with moving that the stop. Okay.
Any
Yeah.
more questions?
How did you clamp the next,
Clamp the what?
how did you clamp the box to glue it together?
Oh, yeah. I have an old pony band clamp. It has a base, about just a couple inches long, and it goes around. And that's one of the things. And then I try to measure and make sure that the points are exactly the same. Try to get them within 10th thou or less, so that when you do that, you'll get where it'll go on in any direction. Very nice. This one turned out the best. It has very. I didn't have to touch that. It'll just go on any direction. Some of these, if you turn them around, you'll start to see where it's not quite as precise.
So what did you do to cut them?
I just cut little blanks, and then I use a shooting board
Okay.
to
I'm-
get them to exactly the same length and put the angle on it.
So you cut all of this in one piece, and then you cut the lid
Yeah,
off.
cut the lid off. Yeah,
How did you cut that lid off?
did it on the table saw.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. Still got your fingers.
still got my fingers.
Or must have a saw stop, huh?
No, an old unisaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions? Any more?
There's one. Andy Crum is online, and he said, ask Wayne if he'll teach a class on these boxes.
Repeat the question, please. We'll hear it online.
You want to know if I'll teach a class on the boxes? If there's, it's the biggest part of making these boxes is to make the shooting boards and the attachments to the shooting boards to give you the right angles, and getting the angles perfect. Once you get the angles perfect, you can knock these out just dozens if you want. So really, that's the whole,
Yeah, he
that's
agreed.
the whole trick.
How much is this plane cost for a shooting board?
You mean the one I use, or the one you can use? The one I use I think it's around 500 something.
So he'll teach the class for everybody that buys a $500 plane to use in the shooting board.
Is it Lee Nielsen?
Yeah,
But you can use a block plane.
you can use a block plane, and I do use a block plane a lot. Yeah, with shooting boards,
Oh, Lee Nielsen block plane.
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Very good. Thank you, sir. Awesome. Okay, John, are you next? You going to show us what you did with your radial arm saw?
Presently, this particular project is not close to being finished. I started a couple weeks ago, and what I am trying to do is to give some examples of what's possible with a scroll saw. This is a very complex pattern, and it's not something that beginners or maybe even intermediates might be interested in, but it shows to where you can go. And typically, you start with a the basic pattern. This is the back page, and there's no, obviously there's no holes in it. It's like a backboard. It's just a plain blackboard. Then the next thing, the next pattern, that's what it looks like on paper. And this is what it looks like. The pattern has been glued onto the wood, and then all those little individual holes. Each hole, you drill a hole in it, small hole. Then you insert the scroll saw blade and hook your scroll saw up, and you cut out the hole. And then you start over again. You drill another little hole, and it takes a lot of time. This particular one here has 132 holes, and I'm slow, but I would say if you say about 3 minutes a hole, you maybe have a half a day's worth of work on this page alone. And then of course that fits on top, and then you go to the next layer. And this one has 70 holes in it. As you go up, the holes get fewer and fewer and bigger. This one here I haven't completed yet, but it gives you an example of the process. And then the final one will be this one here. So that when you're finished, it'll stack up. You stack them up, and I'm going to experiment with staining some of the layers to maybe enhance it a little bit. I don't know how that'll play out. It'll be an interesting experiment. But as I said, these are advanced type stuff. But what I'm trying to impart is that you have to start out with an introduction to scroll sawing and work your way up. I've been at this stuff now for 9-10 years, I guess. Any questions?
I have one. Well, I have a comment. John, you did this, there's no finish on,
What's that? All these?
No, this looks like it was done on a CNC machine.
No, it's not.
The lines are so steady and straight, and I fail to see a ding in it at all. So I'm really impressed with your craftsmanship of how you operate I've attempted it numerous times, and I'm
it
a
takes
little shaky.
practice. You just
So how do you calm your nerves is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's generally the reason why I do this, is to calm my nerves.
Okay, you're doing a good job.
No kidding. I'll go down there in the depths of the basement, and it's all peaceful and quiet with a little background music, and I forget about the rest of the world. And I'm sure that would be the same for anybody building a piece of furniture. You get down there and you start sawing and you're focused on it. But these have been great relaxers. But on each one of these, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, you peel off the pattern, and you'll end up with a blank, with the natural. It'll look like that when you peel off the pattern. And then when you stack them up, the different depths and sizes. When you get a chance, take a look at it, and you can see just, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, 32nd of an inch differences between one layer and the next.
Questions? So you're going to stain the different layers to get a different...
I'm going to experiment and see what happens. I'll be bringing this one back maybe next month.
Awesome. Hope you do.
And we'll gradually get it done.
Okay. Any questions? That's awesome, John.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if I
Don't touch me.
I'm sorry if I touched a nerve about your radial arm saw, but it's still one of the best stories I can think of.
All right.
Okay. Who's next?
Hey, John, you have that file in a JPEG? We can cut that on laser.
What's your name? I don't see a name tag.
Yeah, my name is Ron Bennett.
Ron?
Yeah, and my connection with the guild was about 5 years ago, I was doing some carving of decorative ducks, and I'd gotten to a point where I just didn't seem to be able to go any further. They were kind of basic, and I wasn't getting the detail, and I ran across a video of the guild here, a video of Dan Rubidoux doing a class that he had done, I think it was with an eagle's head, and at the end of that he said he likes to teach people how to do carving, and so I contacted him and I said, can you take me to the next level? And Dan said, well, show me what you've got. And so I went out and saw him, and he said, well, you've got more right than you got wrong. But anyway, it was a start, and so then he told me that he was doing some classes here at the guild, and I don't remember the sequence, but I think the first one wasn't a quail. What was it? Yeah, a quail. It was a quail. Yeah, and then we did a cardinal, and then we talked Dan into doing some other classes, and so he taught us how to do habitat, and then we learned how to create our own clay model of something we were trying to carve, and I'd always worked from a two-dimensional picture, so going from to a three-dimensional model. So, but about 2 years ago, I kind of got burned out, and we no longer did the craft show, so I quit. But then this winter, I thought I had the idea of doing an eagle, and I'd never done one with the wings out, and I thought, I wonder if I can remember everything Dan taught me and to put it together. So, so this winter I did the eagle, and then lately I did the owls. So all the skill sets that I learned in those courses were put to use in these models right here.
Question. The wingtip feathers,
Yes, sir.
are those individual pieces that you glued together?
Yeah, the outer feathers are individual carved, and the basic wing is a separate piece that's then attached to the body. So the body is one piece, and the tail, the two wings are separate, and then the tail feather or the wing feathers are separate as well.
And what kind of wood did you use for this project?
I use Tupelo. I'm a power carver, so it works. Tupelo works really good, and it's light, and it carves really, really fine. So that's what I use.
Okay, and then you had to put a finish on it.
I did. Okay.
Talk about your finish.
I use acrylic. Acrylic paints. I'm just not patient enough to use oil, so all the finishes are done with an acrylic paint.
I'm just really, really impressed with your detail. That is unbelievable. And how long have you been a carver?
Well, I've been working at it for about 8 years, but with a coach, I've been doing it about 5 years. So,
is Dan your coach?
Dan is my coach, yeah. And so when I was going to do the eagle with the wings, and I knew Dan Dan does literally life-size stuff, and my wife wouldn't let me do anything that big. So I knew that to do the ones with the wings out. So I knew that if I got in trouble, I could call Dan, and he would help fix it, whatever it was.
Okay, now what was your motive for doing the owls?
Well, I just need another project, and I've always been fascinated with the snowy owl, especially, and so I just thought the face and features of an owl is so much different than, say, the raptors and some of the other birds or the songbirds and so forth. So it gives me a whole different kind of a bird in my collection. So.
How big is your collection?
I don't know. I got my wife is just storing stuff in the garage now, so that's, you know.
Is your bed out in the garage?
Is my who?
Your bed?
My bed. No, it's down in my shop.
Awesome. Questions? Thank you, sir. This is, wow, unbelievable. Any more?
Yep, got one for you.
Okay.
It's like playing cards, Jim. Step up. My name is David Roth. The first Saturday of March, we had a skill builder, and it was on resin casting. And this is what the audience came up with colors. So they came up with green and yellow, right? So we made a brick of, I call them a brick, you get like 6 pin blanks out of it. And this is what the pin looks like after it's turned. This month, this will go into the tool raffle. Okay, so this month, and they came up with a name called it St. Patty's Day pin. So that's why it's going in the tool raffle tonight. Next month is the blue and gold. So another member came up with blue and gold. So that's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see on the screen up there or not. And this is the pin. And this will be in the April raffle, tool raffle up there as well with the other items we have. And then we had someone from the audience come up and actually help pour these knife scales. And they did the swirl method. And so this will be in the May tool raffle, the knife scales. So this is all audience participation and turned out pretty well. It was a good session. Does anybody have any questions on it? Yes, sir. The swirl method is when you take 2 colors and you put the green like this one here. Take the green, you put it in, you rotate it, and then you put the yellow through. You do that about 3 or 4 times. The blue and gold was done with the blue in the cup, and you pour the gold in it. Then you put the mold upside down. Then you flip it all upside down, all the resin goes everywhere. It's a blast. Hopefully you keep everything in the mold. But the point was to go ahead and show what they look like after you make the blanks. So any other questions?
So what are these going to be?
Knife scales. Use them for knife handles.
Okay.
You can use them for kitchen knives, hunting knives. It's just book matched. So that's red mallee or brown mallee burl. It's a strong burl. It's a strong type of wood, so it doesn't need to be stabilized.
What do you cut them with? What do you cut the bricks with?
I cut the bricks with a table saw. They do sell molds separately that you can pour the resin into individual molds, so you don't need a table saw to cut these. You can use the molds that already come out like this when you pull them out of after they get done curing. And the same thing with the knife scales. They sell, like Rockler sells them only a 1/2 inch deep, 2 different scales. So you don't need to make a big brick. When I'm talking about a brick, they're this thick when I cut them on the table saw. I cut them 1/4 inch thick or 3/8 inch thick. And
you don't sand them out or anything else like that?
I did sand these. I did sand these just to show what it'll look like. The back is not sanded.
Okay.
But the fancy face, just so you can actually see what colors there are and the type of wood, yeah, they were sanded and just polished off.
Good. Questions?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Jim. So, John, we were talking about Wayne's boxes. You know what you can keep in those, don't you? All right, well, we're going to take a break now. So there's some sodas back here and some cookies. Be sure to buy some raffle tickets, and be sure to stop by Chuck's table back there to buy some good stuff. But we have a special treat tonight. Megan McCulley is here to demonstrate some Irish dancing. She's got her board out here. So we'll be back in 9-10 minutes. All righty, we'll see you soon.
Our presentation today will introduce you to the requirements for the safe use of our Holtz-Hair 1265 Supercut panel saw. Hi, my name is Mike Jones and welcome to another edition of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild's ongoing series of machine safety videos. Now normally our videos only cover the safety concerns of our machines. However, we're taking this opportunity to introduce you to how to use the Holtz-Hair Supercut panel saw. This saw is relatively easy and safe to use, but there are specific steps you need to master to use this saw. Remember, if you need assistance or guidance on the use of this machine or any other machine in the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild shop, you should seek out one of the on-duty foremen for assistance. To get started, first make sure the area around the saw is clear of any obstructions or obstacles that might interfere with your work. To the left and rear of the saw, you will find the power switch, which is a red rotary knob, and a compressed air supply valve, also with a red handle. Turn the power switch on and turn the air on. The air is on when you have the handle of the air valve running parallel to the supply line. If either of these steps are left out, that machine will not start. The Holtz-Hair Supercut panel saw is capable of cross-cutting or ripping stock up to 72 inches wide by 12 feet long. This saw is made for handling large 4x8 sheets of plywood. This panel saw eliminates the need to wrestle with a 4x8 sheet of plywood on our cross-cut or rip table saws, and the accuracy is every bit as great. To start, determine what is the best way to optimize your rip or cross-cut of your sheet goods. If you intend to rip the 8-foot length of your sheet stock, it's best to lay the sheet on its long side on the base track. You also have the ability to rip your stock on the mid-rail supports if you want to rip or cross-cut narrower stock. To cross-cut stock vertically, you can do so with stock up to 72 inches in size. First, ensure that the orange saw head is oriented for vertical cutting. The blade guard, which is the white portion of the saw assembly, will be vertical. You'll need to set the indexing bar into the stop that is marked at the top of the machine. This positions the saw to cut your vertical cut. Next, set the depth of your cut according to the thickness of your sheet stock. The scale on the side of the adjusting bar has a white scale that allows you to easily set that depth of cut. This also prevents the saw from cutting into the backing rack. Next, set the stop block to the width you intend to cut. Again, there is an easily accessible scale to set the width of your cut and position your stop block. By pulling down on the stop block at the appropriate width, this will lock your stop at your desired width. Pull your sheet stock to the left and set it against this stop block. Next, you will set the cut depth pressure wheel, which also has a scale showing the material thickness that you are cutting. This is adjusted by using the clamp lever at the end of the cut depth pressure wheel. By setting this correctly, this prevents you from cutting too deep and into the backing rack. The two black handles attached to the saw head should be disengaged by pulling out and pushing the saw head to the top of your stock in a position to start your cut. At this point, the white spring-loaded blade guard should only overlap the top of your stock by roughly 1 inch. Turn the saw on. That's the green button on the right. You engage the saw carriage by using the two black carriage handles and push in and pull down once you have the pressure wheel touching the face of your stock. Now pull down on the black handles, moving the carriage all the way down to complete your cut. When the cut is complete, Release the pressure on the black handle so that the saw blade retracts away from the material, and then turn the saw off. Return the saw head to your start position at the top of the sheet. Wait for the saw blade to stop rotating, and then remove your cut-off material. If you have multiple cuts to make at that first dimension, move your stock to the previously set stop and repeat the steps that we just went through. If you have material you want to rip, place your sheet stock on the base track or fold down the mid-backing supports to raise your material to a more comfortable height. When ripping stock on the Holtz Hair Supercut panel saw, the rip cut goes from left to right. So you need to set your stop to the right side of your material. This will ensure that the material is held in place while you perform your rip cut. To orient the saw head for rip cutting, you will need to rotate the saw head. This is done by rotating the saw head counterclockwise to the horizontal position. Secure the locking lever back into that locked position by rotating it to the right. This is the lever with the black knob located under the saw. At this point, you'll need to make sure that the indexing bar is disengaged by lifting the bar on the right side of the saw head. At that top rail, you see the arrows indicating the détentes for that indexing bar. That bar will only lock down at those locations marked by an arrow. This indexing bar has to be released to do a horizontal rip cut. You will need to position the saw head at the proper point to make your rip cut. Again, using the vertical orange scale on the machine to set the width of your rip cut. Make sure that the 3-inch locking knob is turned to the right to lock the saw in place. This also engages the pneumatically controlled backing rack, and it will position itself so that the saw blade does not cut into the backing rack. What that does is that puts the blade in between the back rails and locks the saw in vertically. Turn the saw on with the green button on the right. Using the 2 black handles on the saw carriage, push in and engage the blade into your stock and push the assembly to the right. As you make your cut, be aware when you have cut approximately halfway into your total length of cut, insert a shim or a wedge in the already completed kerf. This helps support your material so that you can complete your rip cut and not pinch the blade and possibly damage your stock. Disengage the saw carriage and turn off the power with the red button. Return the saw carriage to the start position at the left side of the sheet. When the saw blade has stopped rotating, remove your cutoff piece. This is Mike Jones for the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. Thank you for watching.
We'll talk turkey with you. So they're getting ready to draw tickets. If you haven't bought your raffle tickets yet, better hustle back there and pick them up. Oh, well, okay. As soon as they're done? Okay.
Raffle tickets?
Raffle tickets.
All
So
right.
they're going to read the numbers on the tickets, folks. Listen up.
Read the numbers off of the royal-shaped breadboard. Last 3 numbers are 250. The wine or the insulated wine glasses. The last 3 numbers 213. Push stick. Last 3 letters or 3 numbers. I'm sorry. 238. The metal, last 3 numbers, 274. The clamps and hat, last 3 numbers, 260. Drill bits, the last 3 numbers, 247. The pen and pen blanks, last 276. The sliding boxes, sliding top boxes are 275. And the frame clamps set is 211. If you got the cards, come up and get your gifts.
All righty. Matthew. Where's Matt? No, come here. You want to introduce? No, you didn't win, but you get to introduce our guest tonight. If you all have a seat, minimize your conversations. We're going to move on to the next portion. I had the honor of working with our guest speaker tonight at Woodcraft for a few years. I always appreciated Dennis's jokes, even though they were mostly groaners. But hopefully he'll tell us a few tonight.
I know Dennis from quite some time back. He was I guess I knew him first as Leavenworth County Commissioner. And but then I also knew him because he did a lot of wood carving. And what's his name? He's gone now, but Larry Everett. Yeah, Larry Everett was a member of our Leavenworth County Artists Association, and Larry was a really big-time wood carver. He would go over to Germany and spend weeks over there taking classes. Anyway, all of this all together, I mean, I knew Dennis was available to teach wood carving. I'm hoping he's going to teach me how to carve. Well, none of you guys volunteered. I don't know how many times over a year I've asked you guys to volunteer to come up here and talk about wood carving. The first person I could get to do it was Dennis, so that's what we're going to do. But I enjoyed Dennis over there at Woodcraft, and I'm hoping he's going to teach me how to do sometime a full-figured carving. But at any rate, I'm not too sure what Dennis is going to do tonight. We haven't talked about what specifically he's going to do. I think it's only going to be maybe 15 or 20 minutes, or until we ask more questions about what he's doing too. So, Dennis?
Thank you.
What do I do with this?
Well, as he said, Larry Everett was a wood carver for probably 20 years anyway. And he would go to Europe and take all kinds of different classes from wood carvers all over the world. And I was, when Larry passed away, or just before he passed away of a lot of medical problems, he had something I thought was kind of neat. He didn't want a big funeral. He wanted a bon voyage party. And so he wanted the funeral, but he wanted to enjoy everybody coming to see him while he was still with us. And I thought that was so cool. Well, of course, Larry passed away during COVID, and I had come back from the Seattle, and I was so sick, and everybody's talking about this new disease. They hadn't named it COVID yet. And I thought, I cannot go see him, because if he gets sick, he will not make it from this. And it wasn't COVID, thank goodness, but so I didn't get to see Larry that last time that I promised. I did help him settle up a little bit with some of the carvings and the rough outs and the wood and tools, and kept with his wishes. And I understand that the guild got some of the rough outs. Okay. And, well, one of the carvings that he had not completed yet, had a friend of his always wanted him to carve a gorilla. And so Larry got the gorilla carved 3 days before he passed. And now I have the distinct honor of working with his daughter, Larry's daughter, to finish up doing the wood burning and the painting and things like that to get it all finished out. And so it means a lot to her, it means a lot to me, and it's pretty neat to do. I've been a wood carver for about 33 years now, and I've been a woodworker a little longer than that. My dad was a fifth-generation carpenter, and I couldn't do that. I am scared to death of heights, and I just couldn't. So I got into the design side of things, keep my feet on the ground, you know. But Anyway, what I was going to talk about tonight was a little bit, and some of this stuff is going to be review for you. It's just some of the things that I run into. Trees are very much, I'm being told to move. There you go. Trees are in some ways like people, and the further north they live, they have to put on a deeper coat, a heavier coat. And so the bark grows thicker and thicker and thicker the farther north you go. You also have growth seasons that are shorter. So the farther north you go, to me, the prettier the wood is because it's got more grains per inch. Okay. So when I'm looking for a good piece of carving wood, typically I want northern grown, winter cut. Okay. When you get northern grown wood, you get that increased growth rings per inch, so it's a prettier wood. The other thing is by getting it in the winter, okay, as soon as the trees lose their leaves, the sap is coming out of the limbs, and the farther north you go, it's got a little more time, and all that sap comes out of the, not only the limbs, but it goes into the ground. The when you're looking for carving wood, you want bright, but then you also want to see more grains because it makes a more interesting carving. The one thing that's kind of neat, if you think about the way God designed everything, was we're right now in March. What do they always say about March? In like a lion, out like a lamb. But the one thing you're going to get is wind. Okay. Wind stretches the trees, bends back and forth. Some of them don't stretch so well and they break. But the ones that do, that stimulates sap growth. You can actually take a rolled up newspaper to a sapling and go out and spank your tree and stimulate sap growth. I don't advise you to go out and abuse your trees just for the sake of it. Your neighbors might ask you to be locked up. But that certainly is what it does. Where's Craig? There's Craig. Craig and I have shared more groaners than I care to imagine. But I heard one yesterday, just for you. Two guys are standing on their front porch, okay, and they're looking out, and one guy says, "Look at that dog with one eye." The other guy says, "What dog?" Saved by the bell. Anyway, okay. But that's why I like northern grown winter cut wood. Okay. Now, yeah.
What about Tupelo gum and catalpa, basswood?
The basswood that I get is northern grown winter cut. The Tupelo, you're probably looking, what, northern Louisiana, you know? Yeah, but, you know, Tupelo is a beautiful, nice white wood. I'm not going to say it's the most interesting wood I've ever carved. I've carved in a lot of things. Last time I was here in front of you, I think we carved sweet potatoes. And I've done that, or we watched a video of it. I've seen people carve golf balls. I've carved golf balls. One guy carved a bowling ball because it got this cork stuff inside of them. That you can carve about anything if you have the right tools, the right know-how. Anyway, I like the fact that God has a way of protecting all of us, and in the case of the trees up north, he grows that bark thicker because they need a little extra coat. Okay, so behind me here, I brought a little bit about Who in here cuts wood, cuts firewood? Anybody here ever done it? Okay, good old Kansas cottonwood. About how thick does the bark get? And keep in mind the bark only comes off the tree in big sheets when the tree is just about dead. Okay. Most of the stuff I see is about 1 inch. Is that fair? Okay. This tree, this used to be a tree. Okay. And I've got some more like it. If you look at this, you can still see the curvature of the tree, believe it or not. Okay. This tree was growing along the banks of the Missouri River in Montana. It was on a tree that was over 4 foot in diameter. And so if you went through and you counted up the growth rings, this tree was alive when Lewis and Clark rode by. Okay, so you really get an idea, you're really part of history. So here about 2 years ago, I took a minivan and I loaded myself up and I went to Minneapolis, St. Paul in the middle of winter, and I drove across to Seattle and then made my way back down through Boise and then back home. But along the way, I was able to gather some much needed, much desired cottonwood bark. So what we're going to do is Saturday, the last Saturday in April, we're going to be doing some of these little cabins out of this Lewis and Clark, I'll call it, cottonwood bark. And they probably won't be this high, but I will allow a small area so that we can put in a LED light inside. So it'll look like a candle flickering, or if you want to, you don't have to. But it's kind of a neat thing because you can, you know, if you hold it up to the light, you can see the light shining through the windows. And we'll show you how to carve all that, and it gets to be pretty exciting. This carves a lot like butternut in the fact that it's prettier, it's darker than, say, the basswood, but it's more brittle. And so a lot of the effects that you see here, you're really not taking off very much. Like this chimney is actually still part of the rough bark that you see here. But yet, when you cut that, see what a pretty color that is? That's with no varnish or top coat or anything at all. And so it's a little harder on tools because you are carving the bark. There's a little more sand, I guess, that gets entrapped in there, and so when you're carving, your tools will get duller a little faster. One of the things about the class I teach, I worked out a deal with Flex Cut. I don't know how many of you carve or how many of you have Flex Cut tools. Any of you? Okay. Well, Flex Cut knew that I was working with a bunch of kids to teach them how to carve, and that's what we were doing with the sweet potatoes. And then it just kind of graduated over to the adults. So they gave me 9 sets of carving tools that I can loan out for my classes. So it's a case of, if you want to learn to carve, but you don't know if it's your thing, come take the class. Use some of the tools. We kind of want those back when you're done. Okay. But then you can decide if it's something you want to do. And then, like in the case with woodcraft, if you take a class there, they will give you, I think it's 10% off for a week or two, so that you can buy your own tools. The last time I taught a class, it happened to be the tools were already on sale 20% off, so that was a bonus for everybody. But you can buy other things other than tools with that discount. But anyway, it's a Saturday class. We'll start at 9 in the morning. We'll wrap up by about 5. And you'll get to go home with your very own one-of-a-kind cabin that you've designed. And we've looked at what the bark does and grained and everything. And the earlier you get there, the cooler piece of grain or bark you get to pick up. But this is at Woodcraft, and I think it's the 26th. Is that a Saturday? Does anybody know? Yeah. So it's the 26th of this month at Woodcraft from 9 until 5. And you need to call down there and register over the phone. Then that way we'll know to make a place for you. I carve some amazing. Those birds were amazing. I thought those were so cool. I remember the first time I ever carved a bird, and I took it over to a guy that was teaching me when I was just starting out. And I said, I know this isn't very good. I'm real happy with it, but what did I do wrong? What did I do right? He says, well, you did some things right. He says, you ought to see some of the things these guys bring into me. He said, they look like a shoebox with feathers. So it made me feel good that I did better than that. Shortly after that, he came over and he looked at a cowboy or something like that I was carving. And he says, what are we doing here? I said, well, I'm carving a caricature. He says, why are you carving a caricature? And I said, well, because I'm not good enough to carve realistic. And he says, whoa, 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 whoa. He says, there's a lot of caricature carvers that are going to be awful upset if they hear you say that. He said, caricature carving is not bad carving. It's realistic carving that's been exaggerated or poked fun of or whatever, but you should still know who the person is. Harold Enlow, a good friend of mine, he's getting towards the end of his days of teaching. Young fellow's only 90. But he said a good caricature carving is a guy that if you saw walking down the street at you, you would cross over to the other side so you wouldn't have to meet. I like that. I have a lot of fun with it. A few years ago, I did this thing I called Victim of the Year, and I would find these people that had done a lot for the community or whatever, and so I would carve them as just kind of beyond me, doing what they do best, being nice to people, but I would give it a little twist. We had a patrol officer that had been on a drug bust, and he'd gotten bitten by a female that he was trying to arrest, and he ended up getting hepatitis, and that ruined his liver. He had to retire from the force, and so they were trying to raise money. The whole town turned out for an auction, and so I grabbed this carving that had once been some old drunk that had blew out his back pockets when he fell on his flask. I didn't really want to carve that, so I threw it in the drawer. Then I was going to make Casey Wolf, and I was carving him. Looked great until I broke off one of the ears. So then I threw it in the drawer and broke the other ear. So then I've got to carve something for Johnny. So I'm carving away, and I get this all done. And you know, Casey Wolf's got that tummy on him, tummy and hips and the whole. he kind of waddles around like I do, kind of. Anyway, so I put a coffee cup up here, and I put a nightstick behind his back with about 6 assorted donuts on top of the nightstick. And so we put that out for Johnny Cop. Well, we had a whole bunch of people bid on him, and then the person who won him donated him back to get bid on again, and we end up auctioning him off 3 times. And then the person who bought the thing the 3rd time goes up and he gives it to Johnny. And I thought that was so cool. We ended up raising about $800 for him that night. But that's one of the things I like about living in Tonganoxie. We're just a small town and we look after each other and stuff. So he was my very first victim of the year. And so I hope somehow or other you use your art and your talent and things like that to help support and reach out to people in your area that are making your world a better place. Because there's a whole bunch of people right now that aren't doing a thing about stuff like that. They're too busy, they're too caught up in the news, they're too this, too that, whatever. But we all are here and we can all make a difference. If a lot of you I've seen at Woodcraft and you come in and see me and stuff, I'm still going to be teaching classes there, but I've taken a little bit of leave of absence. And so I'll be there August or April 26th. No, March 26th for the bark carving. I'll be there April 12th, and we're going to learn to sharpen carving tools. And if somebody of you want to take that and want to learn to sharpen a few lathe tools, we'll be there. I have owned my own sharpening business now for over 30 years. And so I take a lot of stuff like that in, everything from chainsaw chains, mower blades. I got started on it by keeping my own carving tools sharp and then keeping my own turning tools sharp. And then it got to be scissors, and the thing got way out of hand when my wife started telling friends and neighbors. So, and then in May 7th, we're going to be doing relief with some floral and then also lettering. So if you ever want to learn how to hand carve lettering, we're going to be teaching that. And then this summer I'm going on tour, and I'm going to be down in southern Missouri, I think in Charlotte, I think probably up in the Philadelphia area. Not sure where else. I'm still putting all that together. But anyway, you guys have been great. Any questions? Yeah.
If you have an idea what you want to do, but would you work from like a drawing, or work from a clay model before you do the wood?
Mm-hmm.
Repeat the question so you can hear it.
Sure. He's asking if I have an idea on what I want to do, would I work from a drawing or a clay model, or, yes to both of those. I've worked with clay. I've worked with drawing. I'm probably more comfortable with drawing just because I've done it more often. But clay will certainly help you get all the different characters, multi-characters into position, or a particular difficult pose. Okay. They say, there's certain rules to carving faces and hands, and we were talking earlier about proportion. For instance, a man is basically 7 heads high, but a woman is typically 6 heads high. And knowing how to proportion that and things, the eye controls everything on both the man and the woman. The hands, there's rules about how the hands are laid out, and I could go into all that. How do you lay out an eye? Okay, a lot of people, they want to know how to carve eyes. Well, Joe Wanamaker, who's gone now, but he taught me how to carve eyes. There was a snowstorm moving in, and they were closing interstate as he was teaching me. And he says, you know, there's 7 different kinds of eyes, and his wife rolled her eyes in memory of that. And he said, you know, you got sleepy eyes, you got tired eyes, you got young eyes, you got, you know, all this stuff. He goes, I'll carve one, and then you carve one right after me. And we kept, you know, carving back and forth. And so the biggest thing is study people. You know, don't size them up for a fight, but when you're out there, and some of the things I teach people, they start all of a sudden paying attention to things around them. Okay? So you can get a lot of stuff from books. The only thing I would really say is that if you want to carve somebody, don't look at a drawing of somebody. Take a photograph, if that's available. Take, you know, whatever images you can, but a drawing is just a drawing of their drawing. Does that make sense? So get familiar with your character. Whether it's a dog, a horse, any of this stuff, they have a certain number of design characteristics about how their joints bend. Okay, and there's a lot more similars between a dog and a horse than most people would understand. Yeah, they're different, okay, but they're also very similar about how their joints work. When you look at, say, a dog or a human or whoever, first you have bones. We all got bones, right? I remember Gary Larson, The Far Side, years ago, he had this great big cartoon, and it was of the boneless chicken ranch. And you just had chickens flopping out on the barnyard everywhere. But even chickens have bones, and so the skin and the muscles, the skin stretch over the bones and the muscles, and different positions will cause, even on my fat arms, you know, you're going to see some muscle, you're going to see some veins, a whole bunch of this fuzzy stuff that used to be up here. But it's kinetics is the scientific name for the study of it, is how all these things stretch over the bones, over the muscles, et cetera, to create that animal or that human or fish or whatever it is. So, anything else? Yeah.
Where do you buy your northern basswood?
Several places. Here's a plug for Woodcraft. Now, here's a little secret, and I don't know why they don't tell you, but if you go into Woodcraft and you go down the carving aisle, the top shelf at eye level is basswood. There's a little tupelo, all that stuff. If you're a wood carver and you're wanting to carve it, stay away from that shelf. Did you get that? Stay away from the shelf. Okay. Down below, there's a bunch of wood carving blocks. Okay. They've got a little Sharpie number marked on there, like 269 or 125 or whatever it is. If you take out your little calculator and you take 0.07 times whatever that number is on the end of the block, that's the price of that piece of wood. Okay? And that comes from the Great White North, where they know how to grow basswood. It doesn't have very much. You can, if you pick up a block of wood up here that's got a regular nice price tag on it and all that, that came from Missouri by way of Parkersburg, West Virginia, by way of back to Kansas City, and they put it on a shelf. It's had a great life experience getting to travel all those places. Or you buy the stuff on the bottom 2 shelves, Okay. That is northern grown, winter cut. Okay. It's cheaper. It's lighter weight. You can take two identical blocks and you want the lighter weight, lighter physical weight, and the lighter color. Okay. Now, if you happen to get some of that yellow stuff that's about the color of that workbench right there, you need to make up some, well, until the other day, I called it magic water. And I had a guy in my class kept calling it, "Hey, did you bring the hooch?" And what it is, it's rubbing alcohol and water, 50%. Don't drink it. Rubbing alcohol, okay? Shake the spray bottle up real good, and then spray it on your carvings, okay? Especially the end grain, okay? Because it will resist the cutting with your knife by about 50%. Okay, you get that? It will cut down the resistance by 50%, and you won't see any of the tearing on the end grain. Okay, and it will not rust your tools. Okay, so at the risk of leading you all astray, too late for some of you, but go for the hooch water, as he now calls it. But it will really make your carving a lot more enjoyable, and it'll break down the sap in the wood. And not just for wood carving. I've had situations, who's ever used a router and you come around and all of a sudden you got pieces of wood just blowing out because the wood's too dry? Have you ever had that? Use hooch water. 50% rubbing alcohol, 50% water. Put in a spray bottle, shake it up good, hit it, give it 30 seconds to soak in, and you got about an hour to work with it, or you got to spray it again. If you use the other hooch, you'll have a nice gloss and it won't matter. Yep, sorry. What else for you? I think that's about it. I don't know if I have any. Well, I told you about that lady that wanted. Should I tell that one? Okay. Yeah, better not. Other than that, you guys have been great. I know it's getting late. You probably have to sleep. Yes, sir.
You're saying use rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol comes in 90%, 50%, 70%. Which one are you using?
If you're going to mix it with 50% water, you can use the 90%. You know, if they've already sold you water for you, then you don't have to. But just experiment with it, and I think you're going to have a good result. So sometimes I have to remind some of my young students, hey, you need to use that water. Oh yeah, I forgot. And then all of a sudden it's, wow, that is easier. So after you remind them about 2 or 3 times and then they've got sore hands, they'll catch on. Anything else? You guys have been great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Oh, well, we have one more thing to do here.
Uh-oh.
Got the camera here. This is the mug shot.
Don't worry, you're not in trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mug for the mug?
Yep.
All right.
All righty. We are, let's see, our next meeting's when? April 20th. All righty. We will see you back then. Otherwise, have a safe St. Patrick's Day. All the huge crowd that's here with us tonight, if you'll stack your chairs up, it makes it easier for the morning shop foreman to get ready for tomorrow. Thank you very much, and good night.
A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.